Hi friends, today we're going to do my less than 10-minute writing exercise that will improve your writing by expanding your vocabulary. I've selected 3 words for us to play around with today with our writing. We're going to use each one of these words in a sentence so we can better understand them by putting them into context. I'll give you general definitions, but I've also included links below to Merriam-Webster's website where you can find the formal definitions and pronunciations. I've also included my sample sentences below as well. All right, today's 3 words I've selected are cockeyed, colonnade, and cynical. Cockeyed, colonnade, and cynical. Let's get started with cockeyed and see what kind of sentence we can come up with for cockeyed. And cockeyed is an adjective, a word that describes, and it means foolish or absurd. All right, let's see. Everyone was sure his cockeyed scheme would get them arrested. All right. Everyone was sure his cockeyed scheme would get them arrested. So here's cockeyed, and cockeyed, again, is an adjective. It's describing the type of scheme, this word. And as I said before, cockeyed means foolish or absurd, and scheme is his plan or whatever he's come up with. So I guess everyone, meaning his family or friends or whatever, was sure that his um, foolish or absurd plan would get them arrested. All right, let's move on to colonnade. And colonnade is a noun, a word that represents a person, place, or a thing, and it just simply means a series of columns. Um, if you're familiar with all the columns in the old the ancient ruins in Rome, like these Roman columns. That's basically what we're talking about, a series of these columns. That's colonnades. So, all right, let's see what kind of sentence we can come up with for colonnade. Um, they they enjoyed the beautiful they enjoyed the beautiful architecture and colonnades during their oh, their trip to Rome. Okay, I mentioned Rome before. All right. They enjoyed the beautiful architecture and colonnades during their trip to Rome. So here is colonnades, and as I mentioned before, it's a series of these columns. You can imagine these um, these columns could be anything. It could be any kind of architecture that you're maybe passing by or walking by, but these series of columns, not just one, but a series of them, or a bunch of them that are in a row. Anyway, that's colonnades. Let's move on to our last word, which is cynical. And cynical is an adjective, a word that describes, and it means distrustful of human nature. Okay, let's see what we can come up with for cynical. He was so cynical. It was difficult for him to accept a compliment. He was so cynical, it was difficult for him to accept a compliment. Here is cynical. And again, cynical is an adjective and it means distrustful of human nature. And we're describing how he is or was. So, um, but I don't know if you know anybody that's like this, but I've had friends before where they're just kind of very, um, kind of distrustful of people or whatever, to where, you give them a compliment, they wonder what the motivation is behind the compliment, that they can't, it's hard for them to accept that it's comes from a place of just friendliness or someone trying to be friendly or generous or whatever. Anyway, cynical means distrustful of human nature. Um, so in this case, this fellow was unable to, or he has a hard time accepting compliments. All right. Anyway, today's 3 words: cockeyed, colonnade, cynical. Very interesting words. Use them in a sentence. If these words are unfamiliar to you, play around with them. Make them part of you so that they're accessible to you when you write. Um, if you enjoyed this writing exercise, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and happy writing.